Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. The Atlanta Falcons over the weekend come up on Christmas Eve with their most impressive win of the season. There's no doubt about it. They finally beat a team that's really a legitimate playoff caliber contender, and they did so by playing mistake-free football. They didn't turn the ball over. And their defense was as good as we've seen it this entire season against an offense that's had a lot of success with Gardner Minshew under center. 6 sacks, season high. Zach Harrison, Calais Campbell. I mean, as far as from a sack standpoint and getting after the quarterback, it was the most impressive Falcons performance I've seen in quite some time. Again, they're elite against stuffing the run. Jonathan Taylor had really nowhere to run. And offensively, Taylor Heineke showed a lot more promise than Desmond Ridder, although we can't say that without saying that there were a ton of turnover-worthy plays. The Colts just didn't take advantage of them. So as I wrote about on the site, go check it out, sportstalkatl.com. Can't be fooled about Heineke's performance. He adds a more explosive ability to this Falcons offense, but he's still just as damning when it comes to turnovers. The Colts just weren't able to take advantage.
Yeah, it probably saved Arthur Smith's job. It was by far the best win of the season, 29 points. That's a season high, over 400 yards of offense. It looked like this was the offense we were, sold in the offseason. Bijan Robinson featured, Kyle Pitts getting looks, Drake London involved. And this is what it was supposed to be the entire time. And it was very clear. I've made it very clear how I feel about this entire situation, that the Falcons' shortcomings can't be put on one person, but most of them should be put on Desmond Ridder. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that he's held this team back. And to your point, Chase, Taylor Heineke, in my opinion, he didn't do anything much different than Desmond Ridder. He got the ball out of his hands much quicker. I think I saw somebody say 14 of his, 20-something completions were shorter than 5 yards. So it's not like he was just pushing the ball downfield. He was taking risk and, throwing it in tight windows. We have not seen Desmond Ridder do that consistently. But the biggest thing for me was he was getting the ball out of his hands quickly, whether it was a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, a 7-step drop. His back foot was hitting that final step, and the ball was out of his hands. And the timing of in the NFL offense is such an underrated part of successful units that many people probably don't, take into account. And the perfect example of that is Taylor Heineke, throwing late to Bijan Robinson in the end zone, which should have been a touchdown. Taylor Heineke was late. Now, Bijan Robinson will tell you, and I completely agree, that he should have been aware where he was on the field and had his feet in bounds. But that just goes to show the timing was completely off, incomplete pass. And I'm going to second what you said, that the results were way better than Desmond Ridder, but the process was very similar. He should have had at least 2 interceptions, and you could argue 3 or 4 turnovers in general. So just because of the results were better than Desmond Ridder doesn't, justify the process. The process was, just as bad in terms of the turnover department. And I can't believe I saw people suggesting Heineke could be the starter in 2024.
Yeah, well, that's just not going to happen.
No.
Like, people can suggest it all they want. That's just not going to happen. I mean, when you talk about the timing, it was better. There's no doubt about it from an overall standpoint. But there were also times where he missed throws in the flats to wide open. I think he missed it on a 3rd or 4th down. A wide open Bijan Robinson easily would have gotten a first down. You talked about a very similar route going to the left side instead of the right side that would have been a touchdown if he hits him on time. Yeah, Robinson should have stayed in there, but there were timing problems there. He made some great throws into some tight windows, but that's what Taylor Heineke does, because in those tight windows, if you don't hit it, you're throwing an interception, and we saw that at the same time. I mean, he could have had 3 or 4 interceptions. So, Heineke's not going to be the starter. It was impressive to see. The guys. We can focus on the Arthur Smith job standpoint, because I do agree with you. It probably did save Arthur Smith's job. The only one thing I want to counteract that with is the biggest problem with this Falcons team has been inconsistency. So if we're going to let one game change all of that, where turnovers could have changed that if Heineke had made those mistakes or the Colts had taken advantage of it, I think that's short-sighted. And the reality of the situation is his job was never really out there to be taken.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, that if one game cemented Arthur Smith's job security in terms of 2024, then his job was never really in question, and it would have taken a complete meltdown over these past 3 weeks, and that includes the locker room kind of quitting. And we saw, as players have backed him this entire year, the players love Arthur Smith. Calais Campbell has more cachet than anybody in that locker room, comes out, says he loves playing for Arthur Smith. So, yeah, I tend to agree with you. His job was probably never in question.
Yeah, but yeah, you got to talk about the intensity. It was the most intense that we've seen them. I mean, there was a clear different feeling around the team in this matchup that we've seen the 2 previous weeks from all standpoints. I mean, they just played like a team that looked like they wanted to be there a lot more than the Colts wanted to be there. Yeah. And you can say it was backs against the wall. They had to win this game, must win. They were playing for their coach, whatever it was. That was a different Falcons team. And I know Jesse Bates said after the game, no one wants to play us. And I'm like, yeah, dude, if you guys play like that, there probably are a lot of teams that wouldn't be excited to come into Atlanta and play a playoff game against you because you got nothing to lose. The problem is you haven't played like this consistently enough. Like this is what we expected.
The problem is you just lost to the Panthers, Jesse Bates and Falcons. That's the problem. The problem is now, great win. Great job from Arthur Smith's coaching standpoint. Everything looked great against the Colts, except for the fact that week prior, you just lost to the 1-12. Now they're the 2-13 Panthers. I mean, that is the whole thing where it's like, yeah, you guys would be a tough out in the playoffs, except you just lost to the Panthers. You're not going to make it
there. You're not going to get there because you lost to the Panthers. You blew your opportunity, and everybody in the world knew it. So as much as you played with that high intensity and backs against the wall mentality, you did it a week too late. Like you did it a week too late, and you could blame Arthur Smith for not putting Heineke in against the Panthers. But like, as we've talked all season, it's really you're in between a rock and a hard place because you're thinking about a guy. Could Desmond Ridder still be the future? He's flashed at times. Heineke does turn the ball over at the same rate or makes the same kind of mistakes. So as we just said, you said it, the results were better. The process wasn't a hell of a lot different. I thought they played with a lot more heart. I thought they did that for their head coach. I think that's probably the primary reason they did that. But I still think you got two weeks the rest of the season. You go on the road to a Bears team that's showing a lot more life. And then going to New Orleans is not easy. So can you do it for 2 more weeks? Can you show me that for 2 more weeks? And I'm not saying it has to be wins, but I need to see you playing like that for 2 more weeks. Will that be the difference in Arthur Smith keeping his job or not? Remains to be seen. But I would like to see it for more than 1 week before I go out there proclaiming, yes, Smith's job's safe. If that was the case, Blank should have came out last week and been like, yeah, he's safe. He's going to be the coach for another year or whatever, because one game should not change what we thought after this Panthers game, because this is what we've seen from the Falcons all season, and it's been the primary issue.
Yeah, it's hard to get behind a team that's this inconsistent. I've wrote about it plenty of times. The theme of this Falcons 2023 campaign is inconsistency. They look like they could be a playoff caliber team 1 week, and then the next week they lose to the worst team in football. Like, we can all be happy-go-lucky about this win, and I am. Like, I was very happy. Christmas Eve, it was like an early Christmas present. At least we weren't gouging our eyes out on a Sunday watching the Falcons. But the fact is we lost to the Panthers, and we're probably not going to make the playoffs because of it. That's the simple fact of this season, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, it's embarrassing that we lost to that team.
As good as it was, you're also still pissed off watching it because you're like, I know this team can play like that. Like, we've watched it, whether it's a half, whether it's 3 quarters, like, we've watched this team play dominant football against decent teams, whether it's the Bucks. Look at what the Bucks just did to the Jags. Like, the Bucks are playing good football. We were 2 weeks ago, we dominated that team for 3 quarters and came away with a loss because we kept shooting ourselves in the foot with turnovers and missed field goals and whatever. Then you lose to a team like the Panthers. Like, you played crappy for 5 quarters or whatever straight, and you ran yourself out of the playoff spot. And people can talk about draft picks and all that stuff. That's another conversation. I don't even want to hear it, guys. Yeah. I want to make the playoffs. Like, I want to win games. Like, I don't care about next year until next year. They can figure out the quarterback situation. There's plenty of ways to go about it, whether it's trade up even more draft picks, move up the board, whatever it is. Like, this team was too damn good not to win this division.
Yeah, I mean, all we have to do is hope and pray, in terms of Falcons making the playoffs. the Bucs lose out, which seems unlikely. You know, they play the Panthers and Saints. And, you know, the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. But we just saw the Falcons just, piss down their leg and lost to the Panthers. So it is possible.
Yeah. And, hey, credit. I mean, the Bucs are playing much better football than the Packers right now. But credit to the Panthers showing a little fight. So, hey, maybe they got – hey, Derek Brown says he wants to spoil seasons. Man, go spoil the Bucs and put us back in. I don't know how much – like, one of us has to get in, so he can't spoil both of our seasons. But, yeah, it is
Panthers – If the Bucs lose to the Saints this week, all Falcons fans, it's the one time of the year we should all be rooting for the Saints. They beat the Bucs, and then we go into the season finale, assuming we beat the Bears. We beat the Saints. Bucs lose to the Panthers. We win the NFC South, and we're hosting a postseason game. I know there's a lot of hurdles, but
wild card's not totally out of there either. If the Rams or the Seahawks lose out, then the Falcons also have a chance. But hey, just take care of business. You got 2 winnable games here. The Saints look lifeless.
Let's just finish the season above 500 for once in a while.
Show me something. Coming up after the break, we got to just stop tweeting. It's a conversation that happens way too often, and it's surrounding Lamar Jackson and the Falcons' unwillingness to go after him. That was never a possibility. People have to stop talking about it.